Okay, so this video is going to be about writing the equation of a line in slope-intercept form, and it's going to be like an introductory one. So basically what I'm going to say here is that you will have a nice value for the y-intercept. Like, you'll be able to read exactly off of the graph what the y-intercept is. I'll make another video a little bit later where if I can't nicely read the y-intercept, what you'll end up having to do, or what you should do, to be honest with you. So here we go. So let's do this and go through it. So basically in this video I'm going to give you 3 ways to calculate slope, and then all of those 3 ways then will be finished off with the reading of the graph to get the y-intercept to then finish off the equation. So the first thing we'll do is, no matter what format we find or calculate slope in, we have to get 2 points. So to get 2 points, what we have to be thinking about is what are good points. And when I say good points, this idea of nice points is going to be integer values. So the points both have to be integers. So we don't want things with decimals and things like that. So, well, how do you get integer values? Well, let me just pick 2 integers to plot. So I'll plot the integer value of -2, 5. So I will start from the origin. So from the origin, okay, I pick my value of what I would like it to be. So I wanted -2, so I go over -2 over 1, 2, up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to go ahead and plot this point to show you something here. So this point here, I'm going to actually plot it on my thing. So right here is that point plotted. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here's that point plotted. Now, the reason I want to point out that point is because let's take a note of where it's located. And the point that it's located is actually on a crosshash. So a crosshash is where 2 of these grid lines, okay, intersect themselves. And when you have a bunch of these, okay, the coordinate grid. Hashes are called lattice points, and these lattice points are also located at the corner of a box. So with that being in mind, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our graph of our line here, and what we have to do is go find where does this particular line, okay, intersect at one of those cross-hashes, meaning where does it cross through them. So basically you just follow along this thing. You got to go find one or 2 of them. So I'm going to go along, and I'm noticing I have yet to meet the corner. Now this one looks kind of nice, but it's not exact to the corner, so you got to be careful. It's got to be exact. So this one right here is probably my best bet. This is the best point that I have so far, that it goes right through that corner. If you notice, it's boom, right through the center, right through that corner. So I'm going to plot that point. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that point right there. So there it is plotted up. So I got to find 2, right? To find slope, you need 2 points. So I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to keep following along. No, 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 no. And then I get another one right here. Okay? So my next point that I have is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that one in there too. So boom, there it is. Okay. So there's my next point that goes directly through it. So what you're looking for, again, is where that line goes through. So now I have enough information to make slope. So there's 3 ways. There's one way is a table. So if I use a table, I use x, y, and what I'm using is this idea that m, our slope, is the change in y divided by the change in x. So those little triangles I put, if you've never seen them before, it's called delta y over delta x, which is change in y over change in x. And the way you find them from a table is, first you're going to write your coordinates in the table. So my coordinates for this particular point are 3, 4, okay, so over 3 up 4, and the point 6, 6. So 6 and then 6. So what you need to observe is, how do you change? So you're asking yourself, it's a change in the coordinate. So you look at the first coordinate, you go, okay, how much is there a change in the y coordinate to make the new y coordinate? So you go from point 1 to point 2, and there is a change of +2. So I have to change 4 by +2 to make 6, okay? And then I go to the other side and I say, okay, what do I have to do to 3, all right, to change it to make 6? And I'd have to take 3 and add 3 to it. So at this point, I now have my information I need to make slope, and my slope is going to be, all right, the change in the y, okay, divided by the change in x. So in this case, I'll write it as my ratio of 2/3. So I now have slope, okay? So the other way I could have done this by getting these points, and I'll just do it at this point now. I'll come back and show the last one separately. The other way I could have done this is I could have still used those points, okay? So I'm going to use these 2 points still, 3, 4, and 6, 6. However, I'm just going to use the slope formula, and a lot of the time slope formula is given to you. So, and slope formula is m is equivalent to y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. So now at this point, you're just going to do the subtractions. So I go up here and I'm calling this down here, I'm calling this my point 2. So 6, 6 is my point 2. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. And what I want you to notice here is that literally this coordinate here is kind of just turned vertically. So if I take this, turn it, and then just fill it in. So take this, turn it, and then fill it down in. What I got here is that this is 6/6 minus, and then again, I'm going to take this coordinate, and I'm going to do sort of the same thing. I'm going to turn it, so I'm going to basically putting this 4 up here, and I'm going to have 4/3, and I'm going to fill it in down here. So when I go ahead and do that, I get -4 minus 3, and then you're just going to simplify. So 6 minus 4 is equivalent to 2, and then 6 minus 3 is 3. So there you have it. You've got that slope is 2/3. So either way I've done this problem so far, I've got 2/3. And one thing I want to point out to you very quickly, and this is, and if you don't know, it didn't matter which one I called point 1 and point 2. The only difference is that had I switched these around, say I put 4/3 first and then 6 and 6 second, I would have got a -2 divided by a -3. Well, negative divided by negative, you should still know, would have simplified to being a positive. So it doesn't matter the order that you do this slope formula. It's just a matter that you get the right thing. So here it is from a table. Here it is from the formula. Notice that these 2 things are the same. So what I've got now is I've got slope. In slope-intercept form, okay, it's basically telling you what you need filled in into the equation. So the equation of slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So the equation itself is telling you the things you needed to calculate. So it's saying slope, then find the intercept. Hence why I found the slope first, and now I'm going to fill it in. So y equals 2/3 times x, okay? And the last step I have to do here would be to find my b. Well, to find my b, I'm just going to go read my graph. So what you need to know is that the intercept is when x is 0. So I'm looking for the coordinate of when x would be 0. Well, x is 0, okay, right here. So all I'm going to do is go up to my line and say, what is the y value? And the y value of that is 2. So I'm basically just reading along this y-axis, all right? I'm reading along this y-axis. I'm figuring out where does my red line cross the y-axis? What is the value of the y when this line crosses? And it crosses at the value of 2. So that's my y-intercept. So my equation is y equals 2/3 x plus 2. And there you have it. That's it. It's done, okay? So the last thing I can show you here is the other way that you could have got slope. And the other way you could have got slope is by using something called a slope triangle. So a slope triangle is you got to be careful of, okay? So direction absolutely matters in this case. So what I want to know you is that if I move from a point to the right, that's a positive. If I move from a point left, that's going to be negative. And those are going to be associated with changes in x. So there's delta x. If I go up from a point, okay, that is a positive change. If I go down from a point, that's a negative change. And those are your delta y changes. So if I'm going to read a graph to get slope, all right, what you are going to simply do is you are going to travel from one point to the next. Now, I don't want to travel diagonally. You're not counting diagonally to get slope. Slope is a ratio of how much you have to change vertically, okay, divided by how much you have to change horizontally. So it doesn't matter how you start. Like I could go up from this point if I wanted to, or I could go to the right. So I'm just going to say, utilizing this formula where it's the change in y divided by the change in x, the first thing I'm going to do is a vertical change. So the vertical change I'm going to make is I'm going to go up until I'm directly across from this point, okay? So in this case, see this point, it is below, so I'm going to have to go up. So if I go up, notice that is a positive direction, all right? And I'm just going to count how much did I go up? Well, in this case, I went up 2 units. From there, what I need to do is that I need to travel over to my point. So I've got to the point where I went up enough to be directly across from my point. And now from here, okay, this is the point you got to be very careful of. Don't go to this point and travel over to here. You have to stay on your path. So once you left your point, you have to go from the path that you're traveling on. So from this particular spot, I need to go this way to get to the point. Notice that I'm going this way, which is a direction to the right, which is important because if I'm traveling to the right from here, okay, that is a positive direction. So I'm just going to check how much did I move. So from here I went 1, 2, 3. So it took me a change of 3 lattice points, which is a change of 3 units. So that is a positive 3. So again, my slope is going to be the change in the y, which is the vertical, divided by the change in the x, which was 3. So my m, either way you look at it, is 2/3. So there's the third way that you can get slope. A lot of people do use this slope triangle method, but a lot of people also mess it up because they don't keep the direction that they travel in mind with the sign that it is. So just be careful that if you're using the slope triangle that you pay particular attention to the directions you travel from one point to the next, okay? Because they don't have to be the same, all right? So for instance, if I was measuring the slope from this point to this point, okay, I would go down 1, all right? And going down would have meant that this direction here, okay, would have been a -1. Notice how I'm placing the negative. Now, just because I go negative in one direction doesn't mean the other thing has to be negative. So notice that I could have gone, then I'm going to the right from that point. So what I'm getting at is that you just have to pay attention because they can be mix matched. But nonetheless, okay, it's a good viable option if you want to use that option. So either way, you would take that information and you would just simply plug it into your formula, which is down here, which is the good old 2/3. And then you would read the graph again to get your y-intercept, which is +2. And that's how you do it. That's how you graph a line, write a line in slope-intercept form from an actual graph. Highlighting some key points, it's called slope-intercept form. So therefore, find the slope first, which means go find lattice points, which means go find places where this graph of your line goes through corners of the grid, okay, because those are the lattice points. And then from there, you can calculate slope using any one of these 3 methods. And the last step is to simply read along the y-axis to find out where does your graph pass through the y-axis, and then you'll have your equation of your line. So I hope that helps in whatever you're doing. If you have questions, please leave them down below in the comment section. And if you have suggestions for other types of videos that you'd like for me to post in the future, please also leave those down there. I am happy to make videos for requests. All right.